Good morning, everyone. Oh, I think we could do better than that. You guys know we can do better than that. Good morning. Yay. Welcome to the DeKalb History Center. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Melissa Carlson. I am the Executive Director of the History Center. We are so delighted to have you join us for our 16th annual Black History Month celebration. The DeKalb History Center is a nonprofit. We're a membership-based nonprofit, so we thank those of you here who are members. We collect, preserve, and share the rich history of DeKalb County. Who has AT&T? You know, sometimes it's the oddest things that unite us, but those in the AT&T crowd know today exactly what I'm talking about. Makes things a little rough, but we're glad that you're here today in fellowship with us to celebrate this great county. There is much gratitude to go around today, and I am happy to share it. I want to recognize our dedicated and enthusiastic board members and trustees who offer us year-round support. Would those of you here please stand for recognition? And we are so grateful to Tiffany Parks for creating another amazing program. Year after year, she has devoted her time, energy, and imagination to provide valuable history content that becomes deeply meaningful when illustrated. We remain profoundly grateful for your contributions. A very special thank you goes to our benefactor sponsor this year, who could not be with us today, our Chief Executive Officer, Mike Thurmond. And a thank you to our steward sponsor this year, the Decatur Tourism Bureau at the Decatur Welcome Center. We could not do programming without you guys. We have 5 archivist sponsors to thank. The City of Chamblee, Friendship Baptist Church, it's their 6th year to sponsor us, Chief Probate Judge Bedelia C. Hargrove, Judge and Mrs. Ronald B. Ramsey Sr., and Judge and Mrs. Clarence Seeliger. And we were blessed to have a record number of curator sponsors this year. Judge Gregory A. Adams, Mecca Anderson for DeKalb State Court Judge, Arabia Mountain Heritage Area Alliance, Steve Bradshaw for DeKalb CEO, City of Brookhaven, City of Decatur, Deborah DeBerry, Clerk of Superior Court, Compassionate Atlanta, Decatur Development Authorities, Dunwoody Preservation Trust, I told you it was a record number, Emory Decatur Hospital, Kathy Mullins, New South Associates, Steel Program Managers. Please refer to your program for additional sponsors. We're truly grateful for the support we get from this community. We also have more than a few elected officials to recognize, and I will ask that as I recognize you, you are a representative, please stand up. And if you're not here, well, we missed you. Is there anyone from CEO Mike Thurmond's office today? No. All right. We are grateful to see a number of DeKalb's esteemed judges. Chief Probate Judge Bedelia C. Hargrove. State Court Judge Ronald B. Ramsey. No. Superior Court Chief Judge Letitia Deere Jackson. And Deborah DeBerry, DeKalb's Clerk of Superior Court. You've got people from the office, hi. We have phenomenal support from mayors who may be here today. Is Mayor Patty Garrett here, Decatur's mayor? No. And Chambly's mayor, Brian Mock. We also have further representation from DeKalb County Commissioner for District 4, Steve Bradshaw. Hello. DeKalb County Commissioner for District 2, Michelle Long Spears. DeKalb County Commissioner for District 7, Lorraine Cochran Johnson. Brookhaven Councilman John Funny. Chambly Council Member for District 3, Paul Stovall. DeKalb County Sheriff Melody Maddox. And finally, we are honored by the presence of a few retired elected officials. Judge Seeliger, I don't think he made it today. The Honorable Elizabeth Wilson and the Honorable Marcia Glenn Hunter. We are delighted to have all of you here. If I have missed an elected official, I apologize, but please stand now to be recognized. Yay, we got everyone. And I want to thank each of you, and please give yourselves a round of applause. What year are we in? Is it a leap year? Are we voting this year? Are we all going to vote? Yes. All right. And lastly, but it could not be done without them, I'd like to recognize the staff of DeKalb History Center. If you would stand. I think we have a few people literally behind the scenes right now, but we're the ones that keep it going. Now please join me in welcoming the creator of today's event and an ex officio DHC board member to the program, Tiffany Parks.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So glad you guys are here. I'm so glad the pandemic is over. I'm glad the rooms are filling up more. But my name is Tiffany Parks, and I'm one of the board members at the DeKalb History Center. And I want to thank all of you who gave to make this program possible. Thank you, sponsors and board members who gave and went out of your way to solicit donors. And guys, I mean this. The DeKalb History Center board members are like some of the most mind-blowing. They're connected. They can raise money like crazy. I mean, I've never seen it, like nobody's business. You guys are so great, really you are. Thank you, Melissa, for being 100, where's Melissa? There she is. Thank you, Melissa, for being 100% committed to promoting diverse programming. So good leadership brings progress. And that's so true. So thanks, Melissa. And the title of this year's program is A Tribute to Black History in DeKalb, featuring historic author and activist Dr. Herman Skip Mason. And just a quick note, you guys, the complete biographies of all of our presenters today can be found in the program. Now, help me welcome DeKalb History Center's past president and president-elect, and might I add, mentor philanthropist, Jackie Steele.
Thank you, Tiffany. Isn't this a beautiful day today? We are so happy that we was able to make it today, and I want to thank each and every one of you all for coming out for another great program. But we're going to move things along because we know some of you need to get back to work today, such as I do. We're not all retired yet. Okay, I need to introduce our beautiful singer for today. Miss Nzinga Benton has been singing and performing most of her life. Zinga's love for music led her to open Zing's Entertainment, a company dedicated to supporting vocalists, not only in the skill of singing, but also performing as well. Currently, she is the Minister of Worship and Arts at her church, Fairfield Baptist Church. Please put your hands together to help me welcome Miss Benton.
Good morning and thank you. And I heard some murmuring, yes, Pastor Michael Benton is my father. We can go ahead and start. Can you turn? Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and He leads me beside the quiet streams. He restores my failing health, and He helps me to do what honors Him the most. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. Saved in His arms. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and He leads me beside the quiet streams, and He restores my failing health, and helps me to do what honors Him the most. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. Saved in His arms. And when the storms, when the storms of life is raging, and the billows they roll, glad He shall hide me safe in His arms. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything that I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and then He leads me beside quiet streams. He restores my failing health, and helps me to do what honors Him the most. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. Saved in His arms. And when the storms, when the storms of life to say I say in his arms.
Let's give Miss Benton another applause. Is that a way to start out a program? All right, all right. All right, let's keep moving in our program. Our next speaker is Miss Marcia Glenn Hunter. Was born in Lithonia. From 1995 to 2003, she became the first woman and the first African-American woman to hold the office of mayor of Lithonia, Georgia. Her federal career spans 40 years and includes employment with the U.S. Department of Labor and Bureau of Labor Statistics in Atlanta. She is currently the board chair for the Arabian Mountain Heritage Area Alliance. Please help me welcome the Honorable Marcia Glenn Hunter.
Well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn off. And there's been places in the carpet where there ain't been no floor, it's been bare. But all the time, eyes have been climbing and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you turn back. Don't you go looking back and looking so pitiful because you find it kind of hard. Don't you fall now, for eyes are still climbing. And I'm still reaching landers, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Marcia Glenn Hunter, and I was born in Lithonia in 1945. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. But as I've aged, I have come to realize that my journey has been simply fantastic. It's been amazing, and I'm sorry that I hit your presentation, because life continues to be a struggle. Ain't no crystal stair for me. But first of all, let me get some things out of the way. I just want to thank those who are responsible for me being here. And it's not just by happenstance that I find myself here today. It was ordained that I be here today, if nothing else but to hear this young lady sing. I'm so glad. I am so glad. And we should all be happy this morning because it's a blessing, it's an honor, and it's a privilege to find ourselves 6 feet on this side. Because we could have been dead and in our graves, but he saw fit to give us another day. And I am so glad that I find myself this morning safe in his arms. Now, I know this is a timely program, and I've been given about 7 or 8 minutes, I believe, to speak. Now, that's going to be a little hard for me to tell my story the way I want my story told. Can't nobody tell my story like I can tell my story. I want to be the one to tell you about my ups, my downs, my ins and outs. And that's why I appreciate the opportunity, and I see it as an opportunity, a privilege, and a blessing to be here this morning. I want to tell you a little bit before I do that, let me say this. You know, you've heard it said before that if you see a frog on a post, you can be rest assured that it didn't get there by itself. I have so many shoulders upon which I stand. And I come from a very close family, 8 siblings, and there are 4 of us who are still on this side. So I want to thank my sister Laverne for coming this morning to be one of my cheerleaders. She's a prolific writer who's presenting a play in April at St. Philip's. You'll be hearing more about that. And I'm in that play too, so I'd like for you to see that I do have a skill at least. But Laverne, would you just raise your hand? I just want to thank you for not thinking it robbery to come out and hear your sister speak this morning. My friend Donetta Smith. We grew up together. You know, like we were 2 peas in a pod. When her mom would have to go someplace, Donetta would come to our house. It was already 9 of us in the house. But she would come and spend the night. We went to school together, and we just known each other for years and years. And it's always good to have that support there. I see members of my board of directors here, and I want to thank you for being here to support me. Would you just throw your hands up if you're a member of the board? I know I see Ravonda, our executive director. I see Joel, I see Kelly. Did anybody else get the memo? Okay, but just thank you anyway. Then, of course, my friend Eddie, we've hooked back up, and then my good friend Elizabeth, whom I haven't seen in a while. We call ourselves the Sister Mayors, because back in the day, there were 3 African-American mayors in DeKalb County: Elizabeth Wilson, Patsy Joe, and myself. And in those days, life wasn't a crystal stair, so we would call each other from time to time, and we would cry together, we would pray together, we would encourage each other to keep the faith, stay the course, because in those days we were not always welcome to the table. And oftentimes we found ourselves on the menu. But just a little background about myself. So, and some of you know this. I grew up with 8 siblings in a 3-room house, 3-room shack. Not a 3-bedroom, but 3-room. With 9 of us in the house. We didn't have any indoor plumbing, no running water, no inside facilities, no insulation in the house. We slept 2 and 3 to a bed. And when it rained more in the house than it did outside of the house. Our curtains, our little plastic curtains would just flop in the wind in the winter time because the wind is coming through and the curtains would just fly. We couldn't leave the dipper in the bucket because it would freeze, because there was no insulation in the house. We were poor. No, we were poor. We couldn't afford the other O and the R. We were just poor. But we didn't realize the richness, the inheritance that had been left by our foreparents. We just thought you just lived like that. That was life in Lithonia. You know, we we would have cold biscuits and syrup to eat for breakfast. Someone at the school would pay for our lunch because my mother couldn't afford to feed 8 children, especially in elementary school. My older brothers had to leave school in order to help my mother support the rest of the family. And I attribute that, the love that my siblings gave, the sacrifices that my siblings made for us so that we would have a better life. I attribute that to how I feel about caring for others, for putting others before myself, for making sacrifices, and being an elected official, as some of the elected officials can attest to in this room today. It takes you away from your family. You don't have that time, quality time, that is, to spend with your children as they grow up. But one thing that my son, I do have one son, and he said, Mom, the one thing I can appreciate about you, that you had a committed life to the community, and I appreciate that. And when I grow up, I want to be just like you. That's the ultimate compliment I believe a son could pay to a mother, and I appreciate that, and he's doing just that. Let me take a few minutes to tell you about growing up at Bruce Street Elementary and high school. Life for me ain't been no crystal stairs. There's some lessons that I want to leave with you today, and as we go forth, and that is to let you know that the struggle ain't over. The struggle continues. You see, when I grew up in Lithonia, going to Bruce Street Elementary and high school, we had classrooms in what some of you may remember as Army barracks. No inside plumbing, no air conditioners. So you can imagine what it was like. No running water, outside facilities, had to jump across a creek to go to the bathroom. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. In the winter, we had to walk to school, even though the white school was closer to many of us as Bruce Street, but we had to walk. When it rained, we had no umbrellas, we had no hats, and it would be so cold when we got to school, our little hands and our little feet were frozen. And then when we got to school, we all got around this one big pot-belly stove and warmed our hands and warmed our feet. And sometimes we would just get a little too close, and our little hands and our little feet would be aching. Life for me hadn't been no crystal stair. But eyes are going on, honey. Eyes are going on. And I remember walking the streets of Lithonia to school when if a white person was coming your way, you would have to step aside. And one day, and I guess that was a lesson for me to know where I would be this time, 50, 60 years later. I was walking home from school with my little books, because you had to take your books to school every day. And I know we just have just a few minutes, but I'm about to wrap it up. And there were about 5 white girls that were walking toward me, and they knew I was supposed to yield to the right-of-way. But I did not yield to the right-of-way. I said that this sidewalk is big enough for all of us. That got me in trouble. But guess what? It was some good trouble, because it taught me a lesson. And that lesson was that your mother has made sacrifices, your siblings have made sacrifices, and you deserve to walk on this sidewalk just like anybody else. And now, as I bring this to a close, a very quick close, I'd like to leave you with the words of Mary McLeod Bethune. And like her, I'd like to leave a legacy, her legacy, and my hope. I leave you love. Love builds. It's a positive and it's helpful. I leave you hope. Yesterday, our ancestors endured the degradation of slavery, yet they retained their dignity. I leave you the challenge of developing confidence in one another. This kind of confidence will aid the economic rise of our race by bringing together the pennies and dollars of our people and plowing them into the fields channels. I leave you a thirst for education, because knowledge is the prime need of the hour. I leave you respect for the use of power, because power, intelligently directed, can lead to more freedom. I leave you faith. Faith in God is the greatest power, but great too is faith in yourselves. I leave you racial dignity. I want Negroes to remain human dignity at all costs. I leave you a desire to live harmoniously with your fellow man. And I leave you finally the responsibility to young people. The world around us really belongs to the youth, for the youth will take over its future management. Life, for me, ain't been no crystal stair. Thank you.
Whoa, that was history. That was good history. Okay, we're going to keep moving along. We want to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Herman Skip Mason Jr. He's an author, a historian. He is the senior pastor of historic West Mitchell Christian Methodist Episcopal Church in Atlanta. Dr. Mason graduated from Morris Brown College. Many of you in here know Dr. Mason. So we do not have to go any further with introductions with Dr. Mason. We're going to let him do his thing and get this show rolling. Thank you.
I may need a little assistance here. Slideshow, okay. Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, I greet you today. What a joyous day it is, and I'm so grateful to be here in DeKalb County. I know that I am listed as your speaker, but you really just received a tremendous blessing from the historic and distinguished Mayor, Marcia Glenn Hunter, to be in her presence in this moment, during this month, in this place, is just an absolute blessing. And so I'm delighted to see you and delighted to see Mayor Wilson, who has stepped out. Let me just quickly greet the CEO. Melissa, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to come and share, and to members of your staff and the board of directors. President-elect Steele, congratulations to you and all of the good work that you're doing. And to Tiffany Parks, I tell you, if I was as aggressive as Tiffany was, I would get more things done in life. Thank you for just being on top of everything. I appreciate that. To all of the wonderful elected officials who are here, to all of your honors, the judicial community members who are here, to my dear friend, little sister, who is now the sheriff of DeKalb County. See, you know her as the sheriff of DeKalb, but I knew her as a fine majorette at Morris Brown College, and a sweetheart of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and one of our queens. She knows how much I love her, and we have it that way. And Sheriff, I have a flight to catch, so I may need your help when I leave here. And I'm not going to be very long. I'm mindful of the time, and many of you do have to return to work. But I am just delighted when I got the invitation to come. Let me recognize Velma, Maya Thomas. Velma, where are you? Longtime friend, author, published 2 of the greatest books, pop-up books. I've never seen anything like it, and the New South Associates family, and my dear friend and mentor, Pamela Pryor-Fuller. Any of you all remember the Bell South Black History Month calendars? Well, that was the brainchild of Pamela Pryor-Fuller, who pulled me in when I was in my early 20s working at the library to be a research associate for that. So I am appreciative, and to all of you, my new friends, and those with whom I have not laid eyes on, and in his absence, my dear friend, the CEO, Mike Thurman. So I was asked to come out and talk a little bit today about Black history in DeKalb County. And I'm wise enough to know that there are many of you in here who are far much more knowledgeable about the history of blacks in this county. Let me just tell you that it was about 28 years ago that I published this book, maybe 26 years ago. There was a small publishing company in Charleston, South Carolina called Arcadia. And they contacted Earl and Carolyn Glenn, who used to publish a newspaper. I don't know whether any of you remember Earl and Carolyn. They called me, and I became Arcadia's first black author. I published 3 books prior to this one: Black Life in Jacksonville, Florida, Black Atlanta in the Roaring '20s, and Black Politics in Atlanta. And then I was approached with the idea of publishing a book on the history of blacks in DeKalb County. At that time, you had Paul Robinson, who was a part of the DeKalb Convention and Visitors Bureau. And so he brought me in, and we brought the mayors in, and thus began a wonderful relationship with Arcadia and with DeKalb County. Subsequently, I published 5 books with Arcadia, and then with another press, I published Going Against the Wind, a pictorial history of African Americans in Atlanta. And so this is us back in 1998. Paul, you got Mayor Chuck Burris, you have Mayor Elizabeth Wilson. I'm standing there, and then of course here we have Mayor Marcia Glenn, Mayor Elizabeth Wilson, and the one and only Dr. Narvi Harris, with whom the school is named for, and Chuck Barris. And these are the things that they wrote in my book, which I read and I refer to often. Chuck said, "Your mission is critical, stay on the path. Mayor Marcia said, Skip, to God be the glory, continue to do his will. And then Mayor Elizabeth Wilson, my life is very rich having met you. I refer to these because they poured into my spirit. And what I want to say to each of you today, there is a book in each one of you. There is a book in each one of you. There is a story that is waiting to be written. You have artifacts and collections that tell your life story, and I'm encouraging you all to do that as we honor these distinguished mayors and leaders of this great county. As we begin to delve into the history of African American life in DeKalb County, I want to talk about just the process of trying to do something that had not been done. Let me tell you what, Madam CEO, I am so proud of this DeKalb History Center. It has come a long way. In 1997, when I was doing research and I came here, I asked for files on African Americans in DeKalb County, and they pulled out a few folders of tattered newspaper clippings. And so I am just extremely happy, proud of the work that has been done with you and your predecessor and others over the last 24 years to collect the history of the people who helped to build and develop this great county. But there is still much work to be done. As I drive through downtown DeKalb County, I marvel at the historic markers that are telling the story, and there's room for many more. I got chills walking into this courthouse because we know of Dr. King's relationship with DeKalb County, and we know that it was a pivotal moment in his life and history. The markers dealing with lynchings here, that we are facing truths and realities, and that's what Black History Month is about. It is only 28 days, but I'm thankful for the 28 days. But those of you who know me and those I know that we are Black 365 days a year. And so we celebrate Black history. I have a little Facebook page called Skip Mason's Vanishing Black Atlanta. I have about 65,000 members on that page. And every single day we are discussing and celebrating the history of Blacks in Atlanta, DeKalb County, and other areas. So you have done well in identifying these historic moments and experiences in our county. When I began to delve into the research, I came to the archives, the Georgia State Archives, the DeKalb History Center. I began to interview families that lived here, and they pulled out from trunks and boxes and from dresser drawers, rare photos and collections, and told me stories about some of the pioneer residents in this area. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail. I'm sort of like a movie trailer. Coming attraction. So if you want to learn more, there are books that are for sale over here. Now, let me say this to you in transparency. I had to literally brush the dust off of this book because I had not pulled it out for a while. When I began researching this book about 27 years ago, I was single. I had some hair. I was about 30 pounds lighter, and I was living my absolute best life in my bachelor's apartment on Snapfinger Woods Road in an apartment complex called Tree Crest. Anybody remember Tree Crest? I moved in Tree Crest when they was still dirt on the ground. And I tell you, they should put a historic marker in front of my apartment for all the parties we had in that place. But now, 26 years later, I have 2 children, and I have had a wonderful life since I had a chance to delve into the history of Blacks in DeKalb County. My approach was to look at each area the various cities in DeKalb County, and to dig and to try to present as best as I could sort of a compelling history of how those cities developed and to find pictures that would match. So I'm just kind of giving you a run through Decatur and Ellenwood and Avondale, and in each of these areas I reached out to some of the pioneer families, the descendants of pioneer families who had some treasure troves of photos. South DeKalb was most enlightening because someone pulled out a picture and said to me, do you know what this is? I said, well, it looks like an old cow pasture. And she said, yes, but it is now South DeKalb Mall. And so those kind of pictures, rock quarries in Lithonia, Mayor, you familiar with that? Chamblee and Camp Gordon, Dunwoody, Clarkson and Dorville, East Atlanta. I think for me, probably the piece that I'm most proud of in the book is the chronology of events for African Americans in DeKalb County. Spent a lot of time researching, detailing, and each one of those events, those anecdotes, are worth its own story. I began to collect drawings and photographs and going through newspapers and collecting pictures and images and trying to paint a clear picture with some context of how all of these wonderful counties were filled with the presence of African Americans, education, business, social, and religion. So I'm going through and sharing some of what is included in the book, some of the pioneer men and women, educators as well, entrepreneurs, the first African-American doctor in DeKalb County, Dr. Ross S. Duthard. Social groups were very prevalent here in the county. There was a funeral home, the Cox Funeral Home, which had a location in Atlanta, Georgia. Decatur had theaters, the Ritz Theater, which was downtown, which was the only black theater, and many, many schools. Of course, the Scottdale Mill employed a number of African Americans and created the community that you know as Scottdale, as well as Linwood Park. Of course, Narvi Harris, my dear friend, Dr. Narvi Harris, she wrote a book specifically on DeKalb County and African-American education. So it augments what I tried to do to give a indication of how education was valued and important in DeKalb County. And you heard Mayor mention that in her beautiful presentation. Now, the second part of what I want to do today is to encourage those of you who have not engaged in research of your own family and community to do so. And while I may be referencing African Americans, it is for all of us in here. Nikki Giovanni said that once you know who you are, you don't have to worry anymore. And by the way, there is a remarkable documentary on Nikki Giovanni. Have any of you all seen it yet? It is fantastic. I can't remember what cable station it's on, but just Google it. HBO, but I encourage you. So one of the questions I ask as a historian, why am I doing this research? Well, I want to find out that which is not generally known. Every person of African descent should know their family history, and we call this process genealogy, but genealogy, of course, cross all color lines. So as you are researching, there are some records that I encourage you to look at as you're doing your own personal research. Church records are important. The churches that your family members attended may have baptism records, and these are a few images of the historic churches here, documenting stories, collecting oral history. We are now in probably the best shape, Sister Benton, and by the way, you sang so beautifully, I was perplexed. I didn't know whether to come up here and speak or preach. So I had to pull it together for a moment. My assignment was not to preach, but I was ready to bring a text after you finished that. Documenting and telling your story. There's a book, Collecting Oral History. This is what the DeKalb History Center does. This is what you should be doing. You should be recording. Listen, how many of you have a cell phone? Even if you do have that old AT&T service today, I was so proud to be a T-Mobile carrier. But can you imagine 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we had a cell phone, how we could record our relatives, our older family members, how we could take pictures right there on the spot, not have to borrow, not have to steal pictures. Amen, somebody. Y'all don't know what that is, do you? Okay, so it's something in the family tradition, where it might be my family, but we had one great aunt who was a little photo klepto, and so she would go from house to house, and she wanted to see pictures, and you pull them out, and then a week or two later, where are the pictures? You can't find the pictures. So when she died, I went to the house, and I gave my condolences to her son. And he said, do you mind staying here? I need to make a run and receive visits. I said, I don't mind at all. And as soon as he pulled out of the driveway, I went into Aunt May's room, and in her top drawer were pictures from everybody's house. And I did as only she would want me to do. I took those pictures. I took those pictures, collecting oral history and photos from relatives, interviewing them and getting those precious stories. This is how I was able to collect and gather information about various facets and pockets of DeKalb County as well, looking to see what has already been written, what has already been done on your family. Has anyone else done research on your family, in the community, in the church as well? Death certificates are great documents that provide information, birth date and place of death, parents' name, funeral home, etc., marriage licenses. Now, with online access, many of these can be found electronically through Ancestry and other DNA databases, military records as well, newspaper articles. This is a part of the historic methodology that I use to compile this little book here, and of course going to cemeteries, funeral programs. There's somebody in your family that has every funeral program of everyone that has ever died, not only in your family, in the church, and in the community, and probably in the state, just addicted to collecting funeral programs. Now you can digitize those now. Many archives are doing that, but they provide a wonderful source. School records as well are important. Voter registrations lists can be found. When you're looking at the history of the pioneers of DeKalb County and the first 14 known African Americans, and tracking them through the 1870 census records and 1880 and so forth and so on, then you were able to paint a better picture. And then collecting artifacts, and this is what this great organization does. I went down, when I was downstairs, I went into the Flat Rock exhibit. And just got all kind of chills. I mean, I was in my feelings just walking around and seeing the items that had been saved, and each of you have your own book, and you have your own collection of things that you have saved for some reason. And as the mayor and I were talking earlier, if you don't ensure what happens to these things when you are no longer here, I promise you there's some who will come behind you and look at it and do as so many families have done, unfortunately. They have thrown them out. Yes. They have tossed photos out, artifacts, because it is no importance to them. So we have to make sure that we do that. So as I close, because Ms. Tiffany said we're on a tight schedule, I said you only have to say that once. It is time to write new chapters in DeKalb County. My book went to 1970. 1970. So there's a pocket of history 44 years hence since I completed this book. And so I'm charging the History Center and others who love DeKalb to pick up the mantle and to write the next chapters of DeKalb County. I marvel that there are places within the city at the old school that exhibit the history of our people and the work that you're doing here, but our history is rich. All of the people that have come through, all of the organizations that have helped to build and develop and to move DeKalb forward. It's time for the next chapter to be told, time to update, time to tell the story of the modern day DeKalb. Folks want to know why Decatur is greater. They want to know that story. They want to know how DeKalb has blossomed and developed from fields and cow pastures to the great city and county. I marvel as I drive through downtown DeKalb at the progress and the development as we look at all of the mega churches and the malls and the communities and subdivisions and all of that. It is time for that story to be told. And so I challenge somebody here today to pick up the mantle and to carry it and to write the next chapter. Because I'm afraid, and this is what I'll end on, because we depend so much on electronic media. We post on Facebook and Instagram and other things, but I still say that it is important to put it on the pages and to have a written document and record. And I declare to you in here today, on this day of Black History Month in the DeKalb County Courthouse, that everyone in here has a book. Now it's time for you to write it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mason. That was a great speech, and I think we all got something out of that today. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we want to introduce our dancer for today. Morgan Faith Harwell is an NAACP Image Award nominee, professor dancer, and the 2024 Miss Middle West Georgia, a preliminary to Miss America. We want to welcome Miss Harwell. What a performer. I believe that can deserve another hand. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, please give another big hand to the presenters, speakers, sponsors. At this time, we will begin to break for lunch. I think we've had a great program today so far. Let's give us all another hand. Everyone enjoying their lunch? Yes, great. First of all, we want to invite you to become a member of the DeKalb County History Center today by visiting our membership table that's right in the back of the room. Some of you have already started. It's not in the back of the room, it's in the front of the room, the membership table, and with the book as well. So please become a member today if you're not already a member of the History Center. I'd like to thank the Black History Month Committee for all their hard work. Please stand if you was on the committee this year. And also, while we are standing, I want to also recognize our President of the Year this year for DeKalb History Center. Mike, will you please stand? Thank you, Mike. Thank you. We also thank Tiffany Parks for coordinating this program, and Melissa Carson and the entire team of the DeKalb History Center, including the board members, for bringing a quality programming to the citizens of DeKalb County. Now, let's give them a hand as well. Before we end this program this evening, we do have a couple more things that we are going to do. We're going to have our question and answers, and we're going to have a beautiful song from Ms. Benton that's coming back up again. But we also want you to know that we have that we would like to be more sustainable, and your centerpieces on your table today are for purchase. They have the price tag underneath the centerpiece, underneath the plant. If you would like to purchase those, please see Melissa or Jennifer in the back that can take care of that for you. But they are for purchase this year. This is the first year we're doing this. We usually just try to give them away, but this year we are going to have them for purchase. So please see Jennifer before you leave if you would like to purchase those. Now I'm going to turn this over to Tiffany for a couple of questions with Honorable Hunter.
Can you guys hear me? No?
Put it up to your mouth. Put it up.
Oh, can you guys hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mayor Hunter, it's a real treat and pleasure to host this Q&A with you. And you have been a dedicated public servant and also a fierce believer in the power of education. I have a question for you. And we have time maybe for one question, guys, from the audience. And then after that, we'll do a trivia question where you will win a prize. Yes. So, Mayor Hunter, on page 102 of the book of Dr. Mason's book, there is a picture of you as the first Black mayor of Lithonia with your brother, who was the first Black chief of police in Lithonia. Talk a little about how you and your family have served the DeKalb community through public government service.
Well, first I'd like to say that my mother always told us you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. So we have always, all of my life, we have been very, very active in the community and have given 110% in that vein, because we realize that to those that have been given, blessed with the ability to do something, you should do it because it's a blessing. I often tell people what I am is a gift from God. What I have become is my gift back to Him. And so that's why all of my siblings, and starting with my mother, who was the first African-American female council member in the city of Lithonia. My sister, who was my oldest sister, who's now deceased, who was a member of the city council, and even before she became a member of the city council, I appointed her to my Board of Community Affairs. All of us have just always been committed. And even if you got in a fight with the Woods family, if you fought one of us, you fought all of us. You know, because Mother told us, if I ever hear that one of you have been in a fight or disagreement, and you don't all get involved and pull together all your physical strength, then I will deal with you when you get home. So that's the way we have always looked at it. You know, if one of us was involved with something in the community, then all of us were involved.
And you guys certainly were and did a great job.
Thank you.
We do have one.
Hold the mic to you.
Does anybody have a question out in the audience? One question, only one question? One question? Okay, I have a question.
Your advice to young adults growing up today?
Your advice to young adults growing up today.
Well, first of all, I would just like to have a sit-down conversation with the parents first. Before I get to the young
Yes.
adults, I want to talk to the parents first and let them know the importance of getting involved. Because like I said earlier, if in order for you to have a seat at the table, you have to have something to put on that table to feast. And we are to me, our children are mere examples of us. We teach them. And in order to teach your children, you have got to be informed also. That's one of the things that really depresses me, because we don't seem to have that involvement between parents and children, especially at a young age. Babies are not born knowing how to shoot a gun. They're not born knowing how to say curse words. They are innocent. All of this behavior is learned and taught behavior. And when you know better, you do better. And if you don't do better, then it's on you as to why society never changes. If not me, who? If not you, who? So it begins with the parents. It begins at home. Like charity begins at home and spreads abroad. The same thing holds true.
And here's our trivia question, guys. Listen very closely. This question is going to test your listening skills, okay? The answer has already been given if you've been paying very close attention. Here's the question. The first person who raises his or her hand will win a prize. And what's our prize?
It's in the back.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
There's it. Okay. Here's the question. The first person to raise his hand will win the prize. Who is the name of the mayor whose mother was the first black woman to serve on the city council of Lithonia?
No.
Wait a minute. Who raised? I didn't see. I saw.
I couldn't access our hand.
Oh. We have two prizes.
Well, you know I know who.
She know who it is. Let's let this lady answer the question.
It was Marcia Glenn Hunter.
Correct. Absolutely right.
Claim your prize. Yes, there it is.
Now, I can't believe this whole room did not raise their hand on that question now. Come on now, you all.
That was the easiest. Don't bring her question.
I think all of y'all thought that was a trick question, reason why you didn't raise your hand. Yes, you thought it was a trick question, but we all knew the answer to that question. All right, we want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. We especially want to thank Dr. Skip Mason Jr. that had to leave and catch his plane. We also want to thank Marcia Hunter for coming out, being our speaker today and sitting in. We have a closing with our song today from Ms. Benton. Please do not leave. She has a treat for you. Here she comes.
song is very quick. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the
Thank you all so much, so much. That is going to wrap up our event for today. Please do not forget to purchase the flowers on your tables. If you enjoyed this program, please give a clap. Please give a clap. Thank you, and that was not a trick question, you all. Enjoy your day, be safe, and we'll see you again at the next event.